What's up, guys? Today I want to talk to y'all about one of the biggest myths in fighting, and that is the myth of poor kids being tougher than the rich kids or the middle class kids. The tough poor kids come from, or the toughest fighters come from poor backgrounds, and that poorer people are more tough than rich people. And that's not true, guys. I'm really finding this out more as a coach now. When we're talking about from the perspective of being a fighter, an MMA fighter, right? I thought that coming up, I was very poor. I grew up very poor, very youngest of 6 kids, very poor. And a lot of the fighters I knew were poor, for sure. And more fighters do come from a poor background, but it doesn't make them any tougher. It's this, honestly, guys, that for lack of, I guess, to put it this way, basically, you're either born like this or you're not, to a degree. When it comes to competitiveness, when it comes to being tough, mentally strong, having pride, because like I have a student of mine. She's a 13-year-old girl. And she's definitely one of the top 5 toughest people in my gym. And we have 400 students there. So she is 13 years old and she's tougher than 90% of the gym. I mean, she just is. She's mean, she's competitive, and she's a rich girl. Her parents own a jet. They're rich and they're very successful and they work hard. And part of that is, I'm sure, how she's raised. Their standards are very high for her, which is the results are showing. She comes in, she works hard, she wants to be there. That's another thing. She's really interested in like obsessed with fighting. She won a fight the other day by knockout with a body kick. She's tough. She's 13-year-old girl, rich girl, that's tougher than 90% of the gym. I also used to have a kid that I used to coach at another gym that was a TCU. TCU is Texas, Christian University. TCU is a D1 college, private school. It's a private college, but it's like, it costs a lot of money to go to this school. A lot of rich people go there unless they're there on scholarship, right? Well, so he was a rich TCU frat boy, and he could just beat up everybody in the gym, or at least he would go hard, and he's mean and he was fast, and he would try to win. A lot of this is realistically, toughness is dependent on your level, like your competitiveness. How competitive are you? Because there's a lot of people that someone will go hard on them and they'll break. And there's a lot of people, when someone goes hard on them, they get mad and they take it personal. And that could be a two-edged sword. You could get mad and get caught, being uncontrolled and get knocked out. But there's a level of pride in this. I made a video about this a while back about why fighters should have a pride and have an ego. And I'll try to link it if I can find it. But the gist of it is basically because you should have a pride and you should have an ego, because you should get mad when people beat you in positions in practice. You should be competitive to the point that you don't want to lose any exchanges. Like this girl that I coach, she will fight. She literally tries to win every exchange in the gym. Now, that can be bad sometimes too, but I'll take the good over bad all day. But no one told her to be like this. I don't think her parents taught her to be like this. I don't think nobody taught the TCU frat kid that I had to go hard and be mean. Nobody taught, you take a prime example, someone like Bo Nickel. I'm pretty sure he came from a good, successful background, and he's ultra competitive, and he's mean, and he's got grit. And the reason why I say that is because you see a lot of these, like I grew up very poor, RV parks, trailer park communities, poor low-income housing. And if you grew up in a poor background, think about this, how many poor kids do you know that are soft? I know a lot of kids that I grew up with that were poor, dirt poor like me. They had nothing, their family had nothing, but they were soft. And of course, some of that, it could be from the background of maybe their parents, do everything for them. Maybe they're on government assistance and they have an easy life, where at least they're taken care of even though they're poor. Either way, it's honestly, their parents may make them softer, but as a whole, you're either competitive or not. It really boils down to being competitive and like ultra competitive. And there can be a point where you're so competitive you don't get, it's a two-edged sword. Like, let's be clear. It's a two-edged sword where you're competitive that you maybe don't get along with your teammates. Maybe you get injured because you fight too hard in a position you should have tapped. There's all different variables that where competitiveness could hurt you. But I promise you, that's what these people have. It doesn't matter if you're a rich kid, you're a poor kid. There tends to be more poor kids that go to fighting because rich parents don't want their kids being fighters. There's not a lot of money in this, guys, unless you make it to a very top level and maybe you open a gym up and you coach and stuff. It's more about just pursuing your dreams. And if you do get in the UFC, there is a chance to make good money. But the average UFC career, is not long. I was in the UFC for 8 years, and that's, I guess, considered pretty long. I'm assuming most of the UFC, I'm not sure the data on this, but probably 2 or 3 years is the average lifespan of a fighter in the UFC. So a lot of the rich parents don't really want their kids to do this stuff to begin with, or they teach them other stuff that doesn't apply. But mental toughness is mental toughness, guys. It doesn't matter if they're rich or they're poor, or they come from a single parent or they come from both parents. It matters that being mentally tough and having pride. Like a lot of the people they're so competitive, they would rather, like I said, it is a two-edged sword, but they're so competitive they'd almost rather get choked out than tap. And that's okay in a fight. Now, in practice, you need to make sure and don't get injured because you have to make it to the fight. But I'll take a competitive person over a non-competitive person all day, every day as a coach, and I'll make sure and tell them, hey, you be careful and tap. I'll instruct them to act accordingly, to act the way they need to act, even when they're ultra competitive and they're really trying to win every exchange in the gym. But something to think about, guys. Poor, rich, it doesn't matter. Tough is tough. Mentally strong is mentally strong, and competitive is competitive. If you're a competitive person, you're going to be competitive no matter what. So once again, take pride in it. Take pride in your training. If your goal is to be a fighter and you want to fight at a high level ever, you need to take pride in your training. You need to try to win exchanges. You need to go into a practice and say, maybe I'm not going to get hit today. I'm going to work my defense. I'm not going to let them land a glove on me. Okay, maybe I'm going to leg kick this dude. I'm going to be so competitive. I'm sparring a guy that has a good right hand, so I'm going to hit him with more right hands than he hits me. Whatever the scenario is, you be competitive in the moment, because all of that adds up, and you're competitive you'll get to a point where you're so competitive for 3 or 4 years that you can't go back to not being competitive, which means, you make sure your training partners are good, but just something to think about, guys. Take pride in what you're doing, and tough people are everywhere. The tough person in Brazil is a tough person if he went to Russia, is a tough person if he went to Australia. The tough people are tough everywhere, whether he's rich, whether he's, I see that a lot. They talk about that back in the day with the Nogueira brothers. The Nogueira brothers came from a rich background. BJ Penn came from a very wealthy background. Tough is tough, guys. Tough is tough, and it's kind of a myth. It really is a myth that the poor people are tougher. It's just there's more of them that pursue this, but tough is tough, guys. Something to think about. Any other subjects you'd like me to go over, just let me know. Leave a comment below. If you're looking for a guide to find a gym near you, get my book, The Ultimate Guide to Choosing Your Martial Arts School and Instructor. Link is in the description below. Thank you, guys.